What if I told you that every circumstance in your life, your health, your wealth, your relationships, is nothing more than a mirror, a reflection not of luck, not of fate, but of the thoughts you've been quietly cultivating in the hidden garden of your mind? In 1903, a British philosopher named James Allen wrote a small book that would go on to influence millions. It wasn't a comprehensive guide, it was a meditation, a challenge, and its central premise is as unsettling as it is liberating. You're literally what you think, James Allen opens his book with a profound declaration, quote, "They themselves are makers of themselves, not society, not circumstance, not the hand you were dealt, you." Allen argues that mind is what he calls the master weaver, crafting both the inner garment of character and the outer garment of circumstance. Think about that image for a moment. Every thread of who you are, every pattern in your life has been woven by the loom of your own thinking. A noble and godlike character, Allen writes, is not a thing of favor or chance. It's the natural result of continued effort in right thinking. And an ignoble character? That too is built through the continued harboring of groveling thoughts. Man is made, or unmade, by himself. In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds heavenly mansions of joy and strength and peace. This isn't poetry for poetry's sake. It's a blueprint for understanding that you hold the key to every situation. Allen gives us one of the most enduring metaphors in all of self-help literature, the mind as garden. Your mind, he writes, may be likened to a garden which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But here's the crucial part: whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If you don't plant useful seeds, weeds will fall into that soil anyway. They'll take root, they'll grow, they'll produce their kind. This isn't optional. The garden will grow something. The only question is what? So what does a wise person do? They tend their mental garden with intention. They weed out wrong, useless, and impure thoughts. They cultivate toward perfection the flowers and fruits of right, useful, and pure thoughts. And through this process, Allen says, a person sooner or later discovers that they are the master gardener of their soul, the director of their life. You don't need permission to start this work. You don't need special circumstances. You simply need to recognize that the garden is already growing. The question is, are you tending it, or is it tending you? Here's where Allen's philosophy becomes challenging. He argues that your external circumstances are always harmoniously related to your inner state. Every man is where he is by the law of his being. The thoughts which he has built into his character have brought him there. And in the arrangement of his life, there is no element of chance. No element of chance. That's a bold claim. It means the job you have, the relationships you're in, the struggles you face, none of it is random. The soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, Allen writes, that which it loves, and also that which it fears. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. This isn't about blame. It's about recognition. When a man earnestly applies himself to remedy the defects in his character, Allen observes, he passes rapidly through a succession of vicissitudes. In other words, as your thinking changes, your circumstances shift to match. The outer world is simply environment as your looking glass. Change what's inside, and the reflection must follow. Allen makes a devastating observation about human nature. Men are anxious to improve their circumstances, he implies, but they are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. Think about how often we rail against our situation while doing nothing about the thinking that created it. We want better outcomes but refuse the inner work that produces them. Allen paints vivid pictures of this contradiction. The poor man who shirks his responsibilities while blaming the economy. The wealthy man destroying his health through gluttony while funding expensive doctors. The employer who cheats his workers, then acts surprised when the business fails. All of them, Allen says, are authors of their own conditions. This is uncomfortable truth. We'd rather believe in bad luck than bad thinking. We'd rather blame external forces than examine internal patterns. But Alan is relentless. Man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creature of outside conditions. When he realizes that he is a creative power, commanding the hidden soil and seeds of his being, he becomes the rightful master of himself. The fight isn't out there. It never was. Self-knowledge, Alan warns us, doesn't come cheap. Only by much searching and mining are gold and diamonds obtained, and man can find every truth connected with his being if he will dig deep into the mine of his soul. This isn't casual introspection over morning coffee. This is patient, systematic excavation. Alan prescribes a method: watch your thoughts, control them, alter them, then trace their effects upon yourself, upon others, and upon your life and circumstances. Link cause and effect by patient practice and investigation. Every experience becomes a tool, even the most trivial, everyday occurrence. That irritation in traffic, that moment of jealousy, that flash of unexpected joy. All of it is data. All of it reveals the patterns running beneath your conscious awareness. In this direction, as in no other, Alan writes, is the law absolute that he that seeketh findeth. Only by patience, practice, and ceaseless importunity can a man enter the door of the temple of knowledge. The temple exists within you, but you must dig to find it. Alan ends with a striking distinction. Man is always the master, he writes, even in his weaker and most abandoned state. But in his weakness and degradation, he is the foolish master who misgoverns his household. We're all governing something. The only question is whether we're doing it wisely or foolishly. When a person begins to reflect upon their condition, when they search diligently for the law upon which their being is established, they become what Alan calls the conscious master. They direct their energies with intelligence. They fashion their thoughts to fruitful issues. This discovery, Alan insists, is totally a matter of application, self-analysis, and experience. No one can hand it to you. No book can give it to you fully formed. It must be earned through the work. As a being of power, intelligence, and love, Alan writes, and the lord of his own thoughts, man holds the key to every situation. He contains within himself that transforming and regenerative agency by which he may make himself what he wills. The key was always in your pocket. You just have to decide to use it. James Allen wrote this book as a meditation, not a manual. It's meant to be sat with, wrestled with, returned to. The core message is simple but demanding. Your thoughts are seeds, your character is the harvest, and your circumstances are the field that reveals what you've been planting all along. The question isn't whether you'll think. You will. The question is whether you'll think on purpose. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Shelf Made. We bring you one powerful book every single day.